What if a single typo in our genetic code wasn't a mistake at all, but was actually a superpower? Today, we're diving into an absolutely remarkable discovery where one tiny genetic glitch acts as a powerful shield against some of the most devastating brain diseases out there.
Just try to imagine the book of your DNA for a second. It's got something like 3 billion letters. Now, what if a single letter typo in that massive book could protect your brain from diseases that would normally tear it apart? It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, right? Well, this is the very real story at the heart of a major scientific breakthrough.
And this whole story, it doesn't start in some high-tech lab. Nope. It begins with a real-world medical mystery, all centered on one unique family down in Venezuela.
Now, to really get this mystery, we first have to talk about Huntington's disease. It's a really cruel genetic disorder where nerve cells in the brain just slowly break down over time. It leads to this terrible decline, both physically and mentally. And because it's genetic, its progression is usually, tragically, predictable.
So for a long time, researchers have been studying this one big extended family in Venezuela that has a really high rate of Huntington's. And like I said, since they know the gene, they can usually predict pretty accurately when someone's symptoms are going to start. But they noticed something really strange. Some members of this family were getting the disease way later than expected. I'm talking more than 2 decades later in some cases. This was a huge puzzle. Something was protecting them. But what? The hunt for that answer led scientists to a single, incredibly powerful clue, and it was hidden deep inside their genetic code. It turns out it was a protective gene typo.
So, what exactly did they find? Well, it comes down to this thing called a SNP. Now, the easiest way to think about a SNP is just as a single-letter typo in that massive 3 billion letter book of your DNA. Most of these typos are completely harmless, but every once in a while, they can change everything.
And that is exactly what happened here. Scientists scanned the genomes of the family members and found that every single person who had that delayed disease shared the exact same rare typo. And it was sitting right in a gene called WDFY3. This was the smoking gun they were looking for.
But, finding a link is one thing. Proving that it's the cause is a whole other ballgame. To confirm this typo was for real, the researchers had to take it out of the real world and into a controlled experiment. So, they turned to mice.
The experiment they set up was actually pretty brilliant. They started with mice that were genetically engineered to have the Huntington's disease gene. Then, using some pretty cool gene editing tech, they gave a bunch of those sick mice the exact same protective typo they found in the Venezuelan family. The big question was, would it protect the mice too?
And the results were, well, they were stunning. Just look at this chart. At 6 months, the mice with just the Huntington's gene, that's the middle bar, they were way less active, which is a key symptom of the disease. But then look at the mice that had both the bad gene and the protective typo, over on the right. Their activity levels were completely normal, just like the healthy mice. The typo basically erased the symptoms.
And the effect inside the brain itself was even more dramatic. One of the hallmarks of Huntington's is this awful buildup of toxic, sticky protein clumps that kill nerve cells. Just look at the difference here. On the left, that's the brain of a sick mouse, and you can see it's filled with these dark clumps. But on the right, in the brain of a mouse with the protective typo, those clumps are almost completely gone.
And here's another key sign of a healthy brain: inflammation. In the picture on the left, the diseased brain shows all this inflammation. That's a sign of stress and damage. But the protected brain on the right is so much calmer. This typo wasn't just hiding the symptoms, it was keeping the brain fundamentally healthier.
Okay, so the typo clearly works. The next question is, how? How does it do it? Well, to find out, scientists dove deeper into the biology, and what they found is just fascinating. It all comes down to the cell's internal cleanup crew.
The official science name for this is autophagy, but you and I can just think of it as the cell's natural recycling system. Imagine a super efficient little cleanup crew inside every single one of our cells, constantly finding and getting rid of toxic garbage, like those protein clumps, to keep everything running smoothly. This process is absolutely vital for a healthy brain. So here's the kicker, the really crucial insight. The protective typo in that WDFY3 gene doesn't actually change the protein it makes. That protein, which scientists have nicknamed Alfy, it still does the same job. It supervises the cleanup crew. What the typo does instead is act like a turbo booster. It just tells the cell to make more of the Alfy protein. Let's just compare them side by side. With the standard gene, you get a normal amount of this Alfy protein. That gives you a standard-sized cleanup crew.
It does its job, but in diseases like Huntington's, it just gets overwhelmed. But with the protective gene, the cell churns out more Alfy, and the result? You get a bigger, more powerful, and way more efficient cleanup crew.
So here's how it all comes together. First, these toxic proteins start to clump up into cellular junk. Then, the Alfy protein, acting like a supervisor, finds this junk and slaps a for disposal tag on it. Third, the garbage trucks of the cell, the autophagy process, come along, grab the tagged junk, and recycle it. The big breakthrough here is realizing that if you have more Alfy supervisors, the junk gets tagged and removed way more efficiently. It prevents that toxic buildup before it can kill brain cells.
And this is where the story gets even bigger, because this discovery isn't just about Huntington's. It might have just given us a brand new target for fighting a whole range of brain diseases.
Because what's the common thread that connects so many of these conditions? It's the buildup of that toxic cellular junk. Now, different diseases might have different kinds of junk protein, but the core problem is the same. The cell's cleanup crew just can't keep up. And that's a central issue not just in Huntington's, but also in Parkinson's disease and in Alzheimer's-related dementias.
And hey, don't just take my word for it. The study's authors themselves said it best. They wrote that they found a common pathway that can prevent protein accumulation and protect the brain across many different neurodegenerative diseases. This is huge. It suggests that a single strategy, boosting our internal cleanup crew, might work for multiple conditions.
So that leaves us with this final, really hopeful question. We've learned from this one family's incredible genetic gift that our own bodies hold a powerful defense system against brain disease. So the next big step for science is pretty clear. Can we learn how to harness it? If we can figure out a way to safely boost our brain's own cleanup crew, it might just be the future of fighting neurodegeneration. And to think, it all started with a single protective typo.